Well, folks, welcome back to the International Euphonium Summit Living History Series. I'm your host, Nicholas Hofter von Heidi, and I have a special guest with us, Gunnery Sergeant Hiram Diaz. Welcome.
Hello. Hello to everyone listening. I appreciate your attention.
Well, they're actually watching us now.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
yeah. Hello, everyone. As you may know or may not, check us out on the podcast. Links to your favorite podcast listening for your pleasure is linked below, or should be relatively soon. So go check out the pre-scenes to the video segment here and every segment to our um, video series. Welcome to the stage, Hiram. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about what what we're going to talk about today.
Well, we're going to talk about you and
Great.
the start of your musical career. So
Sure.
let's start with that. When did you start with music?
Well, I I think I've kind of always been involved in music in some way, but if I were to put a really hard start on it, I grew up in a Spanish speaking Episcopal church down in Miami, Florida. And I couldn't tell you the exact time frame, but it's certainly late elementary to middle school. And I did the plays, the musicals in elementary school, but then I don't know exactly when I started reading music, but I started reading music and I was in the pews with my family singing the songs and singing, the parts to the hymns. And my dad was like, okay, you got to go up to the choir loft. So it was very, very early on where I started singing with the choir. My dad and I singing with the choir. He would sometimes play trumpet. I would sometimes play um, my baritone, I think, at the time. I started off as a really bad trumpet player in sixth grade, and they switched me over to baritone, they called it. Between sixth and seventh grade, I think I fully switched in seventh grade to the baritone. But what was funny is I think most of my musical early on is certainly in choir and singing in choirs. And I still do that to this day. But that's how I really started in music, was in choir. And then I had a mediocre experience in middle school concert band. It was not the greatest. We had several teachers roll through our situation there. And it wasn't the best school either. It was a, how would you say, not the best public adventure for a teacher to be involved in. It was kind of a rough school that I
So
went
like
to
a
in middle
Title One
school.
school
Mm,
or
it just
worse?
had maybe a little bit of both. Maybe a little bit of both. I don't know that those designations existed when I was in middle school, but there were certainly it was a really large swath of incomes and backgrounds, and because it was located in Coral Gables, there's a very wealthy population there in Miami, Florida, in Coral Gables. But there also was, it's on US 1. So it was just a really diverse school. And the band program wasn't very strong. So that's how I really started playing, was way back in middle school. I think I probably would say singing in choir was a better experience than concert band
It
in
sure
middle
sounds
school.
like that.
Yeah.
So is why you did you pick trumpet in sixth grade or rather late fifth grade, kind of like during the instrument pickouts and because your dad played trumpet or?
Yeah, my dad played trumpet early on. He was never a professional trumpet player. He did have like a band in college way back in the day, but he didn't go on to become a professional trumpet player. I just knew he was a trumpet player from stories from my parents. And then he would sometimes play in church as well, just to help out. He would sometimes play in church. You can think of this kind of musician everywhere, right? Right. He's a mortgage banker. So that's what his full time job is. But so I certainly wanted to start. I started playing trumpet because my dad played trumpet, but I just either it was the situation or the concert band or the lack of experience, or I just wound up switching off that instrument. I think I was the only baritone player. I keep saying baritone because it really was really
A
small.
Belfont,
I,
right?
yeah, yeah. I think I was the only one in my middle school that played it. So they switched me onto it. Maybe because I sounded like I had a musical idea or two. So they needed somebody to do it. And they had plenty of trumpet players. But that's where it started. So I actually wound up switching to the euphonium or the baritone in seventh grade.
Right. So
And
what was it like with your parents bringing that baritone home the first time?
gosh, I couldn't tell you. I think I showed some interest in music because I would practice on my own. I did do the solo and ensemble stuff. I went to solo and ensemble. I got my superiors when I went to solo and ensemble in seventh grade, and then also in eighth grade. And I remember I played in the Hall of the Mountain King. That was probably my very first solo. That probably happens to a lot of kids, right? That's got to be
Yeah.
the very first baritone or euphonium solo. So
Did you ever play King's Gesture?
probably I used to play a lot of the jewels things, like the
Yeah, the
amethyst
trombone
and that.
jewels.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ruby.
trombone jewels, ruby. That's probably the one. Yeah, yeah. So that's where that was certainly the beginning. I remember those. That was probably my second one, either ruby or amethyst. You remember.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you. I know I have the book in this stack of papers here somewhere.
yeah, mine's in my workshop.
There you go. So, but after that, then what happened is my parents knew I was kind of a slacker. I was in the gifted program
Hmm.
where I was with the
GT.
talented and gifted kids.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
And I was a slacker. I was, kind of lackadaisical about school and not too intent on my studies. I didn't put in a lot of effort in a lot of places. Miami, it's hard. I was happy riding my bike around the neighborhood, going to the beach and just being a 12, 13-year-old. You can imagine this kid. So, Miami has a really unique school, and it's called New World School of the Arts High School. And this high school serves for the entire county as the arts magnet in downtown Miami. There are a couple of arts magnets. Coral Reef was way down south. And I think there was another one up north. I don't know if it's the same county though. But New World was a really fantastic small high school, maybe 450 to 500 students from ninth to 12th grade.
Wow.
And it had a massive arts uh, section to it. What's unique about New World when I was there, I can only speak to when I was there. I don't know if it's
Sure.
changed a lot since then, but the school day was from 7:30 to 3:45, and from 7:30 in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon were your academic courses: English, math, history,
Hmm.
language, etc., computer. And then right at 1 o'clock, you went to your arts block. Everyone in the school went to their arts block: the dancers, the visual artists, the theater people, the musical theater people. And then there was also the music building. And in the music building was the concert band, orchestra, and choir. And then we also had a pretty large piano studio. And these ensembles, these students, what we did was we played in really, really good ensembles. The crazy thing about New World when I was there is that I received free private lessons for 4 years from the principal tubist of the Florida Philharmonic.
Oh wow.
And then the ballet dancers, they studied with incredible ballet masters. One of them, namely, is Robert Battle. And Robert Battle is now the director of the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater. Um, the the musical theater people, all from Broadway or former Broadway folks, the visual artists, the incredible teachers of their own name. The other cool thing about New World High School is that it was attached to Miami-Dade College. And through Miami-Dade College, there were people who were also receiving their associate's degrees in whatever instrument or whatever art or whatever dance or whatever theater through New World and Miami-Dade College. So they
Wow.
had a partnership. So we actually would play in ensembles infrequently, but frequently enough with college students.
That's
So
cool.
that really happened. So my parents forced me to audition for this school. And I did not want to because I was going to miss all my friends going to Gables High School, but they forced me and I actually got the spot. I was terrible at the euphonium. And when I got there, I was a really bad euphonium player. I didn't know how to. I have a vivid memory of my teacher, Mr. Rodester Brandon, asking me if I knew how to play a D in the middle of the bass clef staff. And I had been reading treble clef in middle school, and I didn't know. I had no idea. So I was just so green when I got to New World. And that is the beginning of me starting to become a good musician, was when I showed up to school there. Really, really unique experience. Small classes. My graduating class, I think, had 100 kids, exactly 100. So where do we go from here? So I started ninth grade at New World. It's in downtown. So I woke up at like 5 something in the morning, as a high schooler. It's terribly difficult. Would hop on a bus that would take me to the metro, that would take me to the People Mover, and then get to the music building and drop off my horn and walk 4 or 5 blocks over to the downtown blocks, because this place is just in downtown in
Wow.
various office buildings, and walk five blocks to my classes that start at 7:30 in the morning, take all of my academics, lunch break in there, and then in the afternoon go to the arts block. Well, for about a year and a half, I still slacked off. My grades weren't great. I wasn't very good at the euphonium. I was actually piss poor, and I wasn't practicing in my free lessons from Jay Birdley. And he'll tell you the same thing if you ever have a chance to talk to Jay. At any rate, in the middle of my sophomore year, kind of towards the beginning, middle of the second quarter or something, the counselor comes up to me and says, "Hey, Hiram, you're just not doing great. This school's not for a lot of people. You also had to maintain a certain GPA to be at New World. That was another thing. This school's not for everybody, so we're thinking about kicking you out. You got to either turn it around or we're getting rid of you." Now, in the meantime, I had developed some great close friendships. I really enjoyed the concert band. I enjoyed the camaraderie. I enjoyed being in the group, but I was not doing well in my academics. I wasn't doing well in my lessons. Jay was failing me in my lessons. They were graded. So not only did we get the lessons, but they were graded. And then in concert band, I wasn't even getting good grades. So I was doing a crap job. I was piss poor. So I decided I really didn't want to lose these friends. I didn't want to lose this situation. Miami at that point, I think New World was the only school where you could go out for lunch and eat in downtown. It was really cool, right? You get to go out to
Right?
Miami Subs, or chicken on the grill, this and that, or sandwich shop with your buddies, or a pizza place, and you get to feel like little adults in downtown Miami. And I really enjoyed being at New World. I enjoyed my friends. I enjoyed the band. I just was taking advantage of it, not working hard. Well, I started practicing. That was the first thing. I started staying at school and doing my homework while I was there and practicing. And over the course of a few weeks and months, I discovered I was actually pretty good at this thing. I was having good responses from my lessons teacher, Jay. I was being noticed in concert band, where I was prepared. I sounded good. I was working on my parts. I was also working on my academics so I could stay at the school. And we also had juries twice a year. And in the middle of the year, I played my jury. And I know that it was Napoli. I had decided to work up Napoli
Your sophomore year.
my sophomore year of high school. And I'm telling you, it really is true that I think Jay Bertollet knew that I was just slacking off, and he knew that I could do it. And once he started failing me in my lessons in earnest, because he was like, "Well, if you don't want to work, it's fine." There's other kids that want to be here. And I started practicing, and I'm telling you, within months, it just completely changed. Everything changed. I found my voice. I played through my Rochus. I played through my Arbans. Jay was pretty religious about a Rochu and an Arbans etude, characteristic study. And then after my sophomore year, I never stopped. I never looked back. My junior year of high school, I started really practicing and really focusing on the competition circuit and the concert band circuit.
Okay, so
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
before we segue into the junior year, I kind of want to revisit um, kind of your parents' reactions. Uh, I'm assuming that your parents are called about being potentially getting kicked out of the school.
Yes, they were at a meeting with me and my counselor, the school counselor. I forget his name. Don't worry about it. Keep going.
Right. Well, what were their reactions like to
Well,
go from
obviously, I mean,
not
obviously,
being able to play, your euphonium and not sounding all that great at home, and I'm assuming you're practicing at home too. Um,
mhm.
so practicing at home, not sounding
Mm.
great, not doing your homework and studies, and then getting the call, hey, your son's going to be kicked out. We need to, have a kind of come to Jesus moment in a way, and you know, get get something going or you're out. What were their reactions to all this? And then hearing your complete overhaul.
Well, so here's the thing. Like, I would go home. It's when really I started taking ownership of my life. It's really how I look at it. So before that, I was just, the schedule is you get back on the metro, you go to your bus, and the bus takes you back home. I had a card to ride the Miami Metro system, but you had to be at the bus stop, at the metro at a certain time so that it could take you home the rest of the way. So from the metro rail from downtown, okay. At any rate, it's not, I just felt like I was a victim of the circumstances, right? And then at that point, I wasn't really practicing at home, I wasn't really doing my homework either. I wasn't practicing. I wasn't doing my homework. And, my dad worked a full-time job, and my mom has three other kids. I have three brothers, that were running around all over the place. I had been taking karate for a long time. That was something that I used to do after schools that had started in eighth grade. My brother has since, but at that time he was really big into ballet. He's since a professional ballet dancer, and now he's
Oh, that's
retired from
awesome.
yeah, so he retired as a professional ballet dancer, and then my older brother, he had been in the varsity team at Coral Gables High School with names like Frank Gore and Antonio Bryant were on his basketball team. So we lived a really manic appointment life. So I wouldn't blame it on my parents by any means. All I'm saying is that I'm a middle child of four, and I was just kind of slipping through the cracks somewhere through my sophomore year. It's not that they weren't paying attention, but by the time it came down to them, it was more like, well, Hiram, this is up to you. You've really got to turn it around. And it was, you know, all in based on me and whether or not I wanted to continue to stay at the school, which I really did. As I've said,
Right.
I loved my friends. I loved the arts vibe. I loved the free spirit of it. It was a really small school. I would have had to go back to Gables, which was like 3,000 kids, versus 450 kids. So I was just having a ball and not focusing on the future. And then I realized that I needed to focus on it. It wasn't really that kind of change. It was like, man, I don't want to get kicked out. That's embarrassing. But so what they didn't get to hear was that improvement because I was staying at school until
Oh.
8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And this before cell phones, I had to go down to the payphone.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you know this,
One
but
eight
you
hundred
could do,
collect.
yes,
Yeah.
you would call, collect, say, come pick me up.
Click.
And that's it.
Absolutely.
So you know what I was about to say. Exactly. So that's what I would do. I'd go down to the payphone by the McDonald's and then wait for them upstairs. inside the building there in downtown Miami. It's not the safest place to be hanging
Right.
out. But yeah, I started practicing in front of a mirror. I started practicing late at night when I was tired. I would do my homework, and there wasn't any sort of expectation for me to be home because I was, at least at school, I was staying at school, and then I turned my grades around. That was something that was much more quickly apparent, right? Within weeks.
Mhm.
And then within months, I had gotten an A on my jury piece, and I got another A, and I'm getting A's in my lessons, and A's in band, and A's in music theory is another class we took when we were there in the afternoons. We would take theory class. And so that was really the big turnaround, was that it would have felt embarrassing to be kicked out of the school. I had lots of good friends that I liked, that I hung out with after school and on the weekends and whatnot. And then I discovered my voice through practicing and realizing that I had a talent and a knack for this thing.
So
I
did you
found it.
So do you feel like you would have regretted that loss of opportunity looking back at that point? Do you think that would have been one of the biggest regrets?
If I had been kicked out of New
Yeah.
World,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't live with regrets, right? So
Right?
obviously, obviously that would have changed the entire course of my life. I don't think we would be talking. There's very little chance we would be talking if I had gone to Coral Gables High School. I think I would have been in Miami, and the trajectory of my life
Right?
would have been very different. Probably in the mortgage banking business, if I'm being honest,
For sure.
something of that level.
So you must have so during your time with Jay
Mm.
and him as your teacher, did you learn any like really cool principles or kind of the foundational blocks besides the Roshu and the Arbans every week that you still use today?
100%. And I actually, absolutely. Jay is very, very, very a wonderful teacher, and I recommend anyone in the Miami area to study with Jay. I think he just has extremely high quality ears, and he's a high quality person, wonderful man, has caring perceptions. But a few of the things are, Jay would always ask you, why are you doing that? That's a huge part of his teaching, is questioning your decision making process. And if you're not ready, then he'll point that out. If you don't have a reason for the thing that you're doing, that's musical. Musically, that's what he taught me. Why are you breathing there? Why aren't you breathing here? Just because you can doesn't mean you should, you know. But another one is, he knew I was an idiot, so he taught me to not move. So he said, you need to practice in front of a mirror and you need to not move your face. And I said, well, what about, and he would stop, like, don't even worry about that. Just don't move. So I started practicing my fundamentals, lip slurs, lip flexibilities in front of a mirror, and trying not to move. And what came about was a really strong embouchure
Mhm.
and then a really flexible aperture. So having a really strong embouchure, or having really set, making sure it was set, and then having a really flexible aperture. And then as I got older, we got into the nitty gritty of that. But as a teacher of someone learning how to play the instrument almost from ground zero, yes, I could play some scales. I certainly got into New World. That's true. I could play 4 or 5 scales, and whatever solo they had, whatever fast and technical and slow thing that they had as part of the audition. But that really meant a hill of beans when it came to playing the concert band repertoire, and then the things that I went on to do uh, with Jay at the helm. So making sure that I was really stable as a kid, as a ninth grader and a 10th grader, and
Mhm.
then making sure that I was practicing my Roshus and lots of good breath, always good breath, and always really stable. And then questioning every single one of my decisions. One of the things I take away from his teaching all the time is that the lesson process is a conversation between. It's not just I tell you how to do it and then you do it. It's tell me why you're doing it that way, and let's discuss if that's the best way forward. And every one of his students will tell you like, huh, why? So we joke about that. So what made you make that choice? And you're like, man, I'm disappointed in myself already because he's already knows why he's going to tell you. I played for Jay before I won the Marine Band audition, and I still had things to work on. It was great. He still had great advice, even as I was approaching uh, winning the Marine Band audition. I must have played for him maybe 3 weeks out. It was in the middle of July of 2011. So we did a lesson, and I hadn't been his constant student for a number of years. I hadn't played for him since 2003. So that was 8 years on. I still had plenty of things to work on with him, tone quality and approach, and making sure that I still played, or that I could win this job.
Right.
So he's a
That,
great teacher.
that's fantastic. I mean, listening, did you ever play for your parents? I would assume that
Sure.
it came to your concert at the end of your sophomore year.
No, that's just a jury. So
Oh,
they would have only attended concert band concerts. Very supportive parents. They wouldn't that a jury was like in-house. It was
right.
for the students. Yeah, just for the professor. It was in the middle of the day. It was part of the
Gotcha.
workday. So they certainly were absolutely supportive and very, very would attend any concert and every ballet recital and every basketball game and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And every
Sure.
belt promotion that they could make it to. They did a great job, but
What was
not
their
the juries. Yeah.
what was their first impression when they heard your new voice?
Oh, you'd have to ask them. I think that's a good question for them. I don't know. I don't know. My dad is the type of person that is my mom is just effusively supportive. So you can't ask her
Right.
for you
Completely
can't
biased.
right for everything. But my dad, it's hard to get a compliment out of him. So they they spell each other, right?
Yeah.
But he's always thinking about the next thing, So once he heard that, it was the world of possibility and the world of college opened up to me. I'm sure that was the point where he pivoted mentally, like, how do we get this kid to the places that he wants to be?
Sure. And
So
that's a
I'll give you a really good example. In October, like right during the time, this is another pivotal moment, right during the time in October of my sophomore year, this is October of 2001. The Marine Band was in Miami on tour. And I found out from my high school band director, Mr. Brandon, and I don't know what the ticket process is now. I'm pretty sure what they used to do is they used to just mail tickets to band directors, and band directors would just hand them out to their
yeah.
students wherever they were going. So I got a few from my teacher, and I said, "Hey, Dad, I want to go to this." And so we went to the Marine Band concert, and I still remember it was at the Miami-Dade County Auditorium. We sat in the balcony. I remember our seats. I remember looking, and I remember asking my dad. I was like, "Dad, is this a job?" And he's like, "Yeah, these people are making money." I was like, "I didn't know." He's like, "Well, do you want to go talk to the Euphonium players?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess. So we ran backstage. This
Uh-huh.
is probably October, probably late October. I want to say probably October 20 something. We ran backstage. We found Steve Kellner and Matt Summers. And Steve's like, "I'm retiring. You don't want to talk to me. Talk to Matt." So Matt comes up. He's like, "Hey, we got to get on this bus. But tomorrow we're playing in, oh, dadgummit, South. We're playing South in Homestead at a gym. And if you come tomorrow to the job, we can talk more. But I have to get on this bus and we have to go." Like I was saying about tour. I said, "Okay, we'll see." And that next day was a Saturday or Sunday. So my dad was like, we can go, let's go.
Well, that's
So
awesome.
my friend and I, Enrique, and myself and my dad, he drove us down to Homestead. And then we saw the Marine Band again. They sounded phenomenal. And during the intermission, Matt Summers came over And we talked extensively about what I should do. And I swear to you, Matt said you should go to a good school like University of Michigan or North Texas or etc. Then you should also do the competitions, the Falcone Festival, the iTech conference, and you should start playing for really great players. And I was like, okay. Because I asked him, I was like, how do you do this? How did you get to this point? And I did that. I wound up doing exactly what he told me to do.
That's awesome.
but so that was right during that pivotal time where I was gonna get kicked out
Right.
to transitioning to practicing more. That was certainly an inspirational concert, and an inspirational pair of concerts. Loved being able to see the Marine Band in that capacity. That's what I love about tour, is that it impacted me the same way as me going on this coming tour, is that I was able to find a career. It's really wonderful, really, really wonderful. So yeah, in terms of my parents, they just had four boys that doing four disparate things. Eduardo, my youngest brother, he's now into the statistics side of medicine, but he was always a very smart kid. He had done some dance, he had done basketball, he was just all over the map. Alejandro was really heavily into dance, hours and hours a day. Myself, I was into music, and that was took all day. And then my older brother was into sports, and he had played varsity basketball at Gables, and then he was at FIU. It's just we all had really disparate um, uh, things that we were up to. I had the
Sure.
karate thing as well, so it was just they were all over the map. We were all over the map. My mom was certainly just a bus driver at many times. So I'm grateful for their support. And that sophomore year, that pivotal year of high school, really came down to wanting to stay and then finding my voice, all in the same place, all in a span of a few months. It totally changed.
That's amazing. And I
Yeah.
think that's a great way to finish off this segment here for your first in series. And we'll follow up post tour as you um, drive off into the North Midwest area of your segment this year. And if you haven't gone and listened to the podcast before this and where we're going after again for this, we dive into the tour sequence and getting to, you know, really define what that process looks like,
Mhm.
how many stops they go through, tour dates, and all that good stuff.
Yep.
If you're curious, we'll leave the tour schedule below or on the website, and we will catch everybody on the podcast. And until next time, thank you so much for joining us and our guest, Gunnery Sergeant Hiram Diaz, for this wonderful opportunity to dive into your upbringing and your life and bring everybody up to speed.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope you guys got something out of it. You don't have to be perfect at the euphonium in eighth grade. You can be really bad, really, really bad.
That's awesome.
So,
I mean, it really is. And to have that experience really kind of bolsters hopes for the parents that are listening and watching, and to seeing what opportunities exist in their local communities to listen to the premier bands or even some of the the local field bands that the
oh
military
yeah,
has to offer.
absolutely.
So we look forward to being part of your journey alongside your students and helping them see a brighter future for everyone. Until next time, everyone, thank you so much.